Ben from DrumLab. What I want to talk to you about today is a bit of a technique tip. So, usually speaking, when we're playing drums, we want to try and be as relaxed as possible. And in order to play fast, we need to make sure that we're using the least amount of joints or muscles possible. How I want you to imagine the spectrum of how you use different techniques is similar to that of the gearbox in a car. So if we imagine that we've got our gears, say 1 through to 4 in a car, gear 1 is the slowest, but it's also got the most pulling power. So if you think of a truck going up a hill, or if you think of someone trying to pull along a caravan or something, and they need the most power possible, you need to be in a lower gear. For drummers, this is the same as if we're trying to use more joints. So the most powerful way that we can hit the drum is using our shoulder, elbow, and wrist all at once. This will give us the most volume, but because the stick has to travel such a large distance, it's going to be very difficult for us to play fast. So this sort of technique might be relevant if you're playing really heavy rock and you're just needing that hand to come in to play the backbeat of a particular song. The next step is that we need to isolate one of the joints. So just then we're using shoulder, elbow, wrist and fingers. Now we're going to isolate one joint. So we're going to take our shoulder out of the equation. Now the movement comes from here instead of from here. So this is like our second gear. So also quite loud in volume, and we can play that a little bit faster. Next we isolate another joint. So this time we're isolating our shoulder and our elbow. So it's just going to be coming from our wrist. This would be our third gear. Finally, for our last gear, we just want to be using our fingers. We isolate the wrist joint. So as we're using less and less joints, the stick doesn't have to travel as high, which means that we have less distance to cover and we're able to go faster. However, this should be at the expense of volume. So if you go and watch videos of the world's fastest drummer, the old videos of Mike Mangini playing on a pad, you'll see that the stick doesn't come up very high. It just comes off the top of the drum. And this is because we can't play large volumes and have the stick traveling large distances and still play quickly. So think of gear 1, whole arm, shoulder, elbow, wrist, fingers. That's gear 1. Gear 2, we isolate the shoulder. Gear 3, it's just coming from the wrists. And finally, gear 4, the fastest, is coming from just our fingers. Flip your sticks upside down and practice hitting your forearm. Because if your elbow moves, you're not going to be able to do this properly. So you isolate just your wrist. It's a great way to practice getting to use just your wrists. When focusing on your finger technique, you want to make sure you're using all of your back fingers. And avoid getting the teacup pinky coming out. You don't want your pinky coming away from your hand. All 3 fingers need to stay at the back of the stick.